Welcome back to another Forex Forecast Traders. I'm FX Telepath. I've been trading for over 6 years, so you guys are in the right place. Let's get right into the forecast. So starting off with the DXY, the US dollar, I was actually somewhat bullish on the dollar last week, and there are two reasons why. Let's start with the higher time frame here on the weekly chart. I will show you the first reason why I was bullish. Well, you can see this green box. This is our weekly demand zone right here. These black dotted lines you see here, this is monthly demand. So not only do we have a weekly demand that is in control, we have a monthly demand that is in control. So that's why, I've been bullish on the dollar every time we come into this weekly zone and to this monthly zone. Now, I will admit the weekly downward trend line is definitely a bearish sign, but let me show you guys the other reason. Actually, there's three reasons, if I'm being honest, three reasons why I was bullish on the dollar. If you look in the daily chart, I was pointing out this daily supply at 98.33, and there's liquidity right before it. This purple box represents resistance. I don't trade resistance. I trade supply and demand. So whenever I see a supply zone with a resistance level right before it, in my opinion, that is liquidity. So there are stops most likely here, and that is what I thought we could be targeting. The third reason I was bullish on the dollar was because we were retracing back into this 4-hour area of demand. Now you can see on the screen right now, I predicted the move off of this 4-hour demand zone. I not only predicted the move down to it, I predicted the move to the upside. Now, the big question now is how big of a move are we going to get to that 4-hour supply zone? And by the way, I did predict that from one of the daily breakdown videos throughout the week for the members. But as far as the dollar goes now, the question is how big of a move are we going to get? The demand is in control. It is looking strong. However, I can't deny these two red candles here. It is looking pretty bearish as far as not really breaking the high here. But at the end of the day, the 4-hour demand is in control. And I think we could continue to go up and target, like I said, the daily liquidity and approach this daily supply. And then from there, I actually think we are going to see a move to the downside in the dollar at the supply zone on the daily chart at 98.33. What I'm going to be watching this week is this 1-hour chart. Because this 1-hour chart right now, what do you guys notice? Well, we are very, very sideways right now. There's really no clear direction. However, if we do break this high, that will give us some sort of upward trend line here on the 1-hour chart, and that will be our guide to continue to look for longs on the dollar. That will be a very bullish sign. Obviously, I won't deny that if we do break the low here, that's a bearish sign. And in my opinion, we might not be headed up to that daily supply. So next week, I will be watching this high to see if we can create some sort of uptrend to target that daily liquidity up above into that daily supply zone on the DXY. On to the forecast for the Euro US dollar. On the daily chart, I was pointing out this daily area of demand at 1.17. I did think we were going to get a pullback to it. Unfortunately, we have not. We do have some sort of liquidity trap here now below. Let me just draw that. Definitely could be targeting that and then getting a reaction off of this daily demand. Not only because it's a demand zone, but it's because it's with a overall daily trend as well. How do we go about and trade the Euro US dollar right now? Well, on the 1-hour chart, this 1-hour demand zone was already tested, and this was a demand zone that I called out ahead of time, not after, no P&L screenshots. This was called out on video in the daily market breakdown video for the Diamond members. If you want to trade alongside myself and the members, join the Diamond membership, where you will have access to the 38-page supply and demand zone PDF, which will be your complete trading guide, the daily market breakdown videos, which are forecasts that I release every single night for the members to trade alongside myself, step-by-step video lessons A to Z, covering everything you need to know on supply and demand trading, the Sunday strategy Zoom session, where members submit homework, and it's an interactive 1-hour call where we go over all of your homework and every trading related question, private access to myself inside of our private Discord group where I answer all of your trading related questions, and finally the Sunday live stream forecast where we break down over 30 markets together. And it's not just me. Here are some of the members and some of their trades they've been taking lately, absolutely killing it. And we also have some amazing reviews from some of the past members sharing their experience within the group. So if you're ready to trade alongside myself and the community, join the Diamond membership today. Links in the description down below. So this 1-hour demand zone trade has already taken place. I wish I got the entire move. I did not, and I'm glad I took profit because we did start to retrace back a little bit. Almost no drawdown on that trade. Absolutely picture perfect. And at this point, I wouldn't be trading it again. I know it's barely tested. And just a little bit of a lesson here, when price comes back down to a zone that's barely tested like this, often we will see another small move off the zone, but I actually am expecting it to break if we do pull back to the zone. I think, again, we could see a small move, but me personally, I would be avoiding this trade. That's why I called it out beforehand, before it was tested. Now it's been tested, so I personally would avoid it. I think it's going to break because I think we could be retracing back down to this 4-hour demand zone that I'm going to pull up now. And this 4-hour demand zone is actually basically inside of that overall daily demand that I was pointing out earlier. And you notice here this purple box, that is our support, also known as a liquidity trap. I would like to see another reaction off of the support to really prove that there are stop losses here right into our demand zone, because at the end of the day, I think it's a good demand zone for maybe a pullback entry long at 1.17. You could always just look for 15-minute confirmation in the zone as well. Both are options. Set and forget could be decent as well because it's with the overall daily and weekly trend to the upside. So if we do pull back on the euro, that's where I think we're headed, and this is the next demand zone that I'm seeing for a potential long trade on the euro US dollar and on the 4-hour chart as well. I'm going to map out this high. If we break that high, we will have some sort of upward trend. And then if we have, we're not going to draw an upward trend line yet, but if we do have an upward trend line here, this trend line will act as our guide for day trading long on a 15-minute time frame. So that's another option if we don't get the pullback down to this 4-hour demand at 1.17. All right, onto the forecast for gold. I'm going to do a 4-chart layout view here just to show you that our higher time frames, which is our weekly and our daily over here, they're both trending up. It is looking really strong. I won't deny the weakness we have seen, but overall, the trend is to the upside. So, we kind of have to go with that trend. Unfortunately, we did get a massive pullback, but that's actually a good thing in my opinion. And at this point, we had a nice upward trend line. I was looking forward to, I don't day trade personally, but I was looking forward to telling members it's a great time to look to day trade. But then we immediately broke that trend line. We broke this trend line with this supply zone at 50.63. It is a very poor quality supply zone on the 4-hour chart, in my opinion. So, if you are going to short from the zone, you can. I think we could see a small move off the zone. Only a small move because it's not really a great zone. The move away is decent, but I don't like the quick return. And number 2, it is counter trend to the daily and the weekly trends to the upside. So again, I think we could see a small move off the zone. I'm thinking maybe 1-to-1. Be aggressive with trade management if you are going to get short at the zone, meaning let's say your stop is here, entry's here, we get a small move, put your stop to half risk or put your stop to break even or take 75% of the trade off here, because I think we could turn around and end up breaking the supply, again, due to the fact that the higher time frame trends are up. So me personally, I'm going to be avoiding this supply zone. I don't really want to be shorting that trend on gold right now. So me personally, if we break that supply, any demand there is going to be a very nice trading setup if we do get a pullback down to that zone. And if we do break this high, we will have a trend line from here to here, and we could be looking for day trading longs with that overall trend line. So that's really all I'm seeing right now on gold. Again, look at the higher time frames. The trends are up. So yeah, gold is kind of looking weak, on the lower time frames, but we have a supply to get through. I think we are going to get through it, in my opinion. But again, I think we could see a small move, so might be able to make a little bit of money on that one. Me personally, as a swing trader, who prefers to trade with the trend, I'm going to be waiting for that supply to be removed and a demand zone to be formed on gold. All right, on to the forecast for the S&P 500. And really quick, if you guys are enjoying this video, please hit that like button and subscribe. I don't run any mid-roll ads on my video here, guys. I know how annoying that is, especially with how many ads YouTube is putting up now. It's crazy. So I would appreciate a like and subscribe just to support my channel for free if you guys don't mind. So anyways, on the S&P 500, we still have 46 minutes left for this candle to close. If it closes down here, which I think it will be, I don't think we're going to see any crazy moves at the end of the day here. We're going to have a daily supply zone right here, and that is significant. This daily supply removed an upper trend line. So the trends are still up on the higher time frames, like the weekly and the monthly, but this is a pretty bearish sign in my opinion. Although, look, we did remove a trend line here, pushed above. It's just we're clearly basing out for either a move to the upside or a massive move to the downside, and it's really tricky to tell what could take place. Again, if this supply does qualify by this candle closing like that, I think we could see a small move off that supply before we end up breaking it due to the higher time frame trends. But it's a decent daily supply forming at 69.47. And if you're bearish, you could be waiting for the supply to be hit to look for confirmation short trades, like on a day trading chart or even a 1 hour time frame. As far as trading the S&P 500 goes now, we actually have a few options. If you are bullish, I'm going to get rid of this arrow and not really a downtrend. We did get a nice move off this 1 hour zone. Kind of just a random zone though, not really the best trading setup. So as long as this demand's holding, we could be looking for longs on a 5-minute chart. I think that's reasonable. And the good thing about that is we have very, very clear profit margin up to this 4 hour supply at 69.56. It's pretty much at that potential daily supply I was just pointing out. But again, look at how we're clearly just ranging here. It's a kind of a big range, but it's clearly just a range. I'm not really, actually, we still have that demand zone down below that I forgot about, and it's kind of a liquidity trap, but I'll point that out in a second. So again, if you're bearish on the S&P, you could be shorting at that supply at 69.56. It's very counter trend to the higher time frames, guys. So I personally don't really short the S&P 500 or any indexes. If you are going to short at this supply, I wouldn't be greedy. I would be looking for a 1-to-1. Moving my stop to break even as quick as you can. If you do get a move, that's how I would be managing that trade, because it's really not the best setup. This was a 4 hour demand zone I was pointing out as well. Unfortunately, pretty big move to the downside, but I've been telling the members wider stops are good here, guys. Having a stop down here kind of defeats the purpose, but not a bad time to have wide stops, guys, because we've seen this happen so many times lately, especially with Mr. Trump in office. So if we do get a deeper pullback on the S&P 500, we have a zone down at 66.48. There is kind of liquidity here. Let me just draw it for you guys. I'm kind of new to liquidity. I mean, with the last year, this is a little too far for me from the zone. I do prefer it like right here. I think that's like the sweet spot. So I don't really know if I want to call that liquidity. I do prefer, since it's an older zone, right? The zone was created in November of last year. So if we do get a pullback below here, I want to see some sort of liquidity trap here, and then I think we could see a move off that zone. I think it'd make it higher odds. Still not a bad zone, even if we don't get the liquidity trap, but at 66.48, that would be our 4 hour demand zone for a potential pullback. And the good thing is it's out of the way of this range, right? It's sitting right below the range, which is kind of good. And if you look at the zone, let's take a look at the zone, zoom in a little bit. It did remove a trend line. And I like the basing, and the move away is pretty good. And just a little bit of a tip, sometimes we get a wick like that, it's basically pointing at the real demand down below. So I think it's a pretty good setup if we do get a pullback down there. And then let's say we don't, and we just continue to push up from here. If we remove that supply, any demand there could be good for a potential long trade. And if you're feeling a little bit risky, you could get a quick little 1-to-1, quick little 0.5 to 1 trade, make a little bit of money. I think the bigger move is going to be to the upside here, guys. So a couple good 4 hour zones here on the S&P 500 if you are bullish and if you are bearish. And at the end of the day, the higher time frame trends are up, so I do prefer the long entries. Doesn't mean we can't get a quick short trade though, counter trend. Alrighty, on to the forecast for the USDJPY. Look at where we are at here on the daily chart. Pretty much sitting right at the low. Unfortunately, there's no demand here as far as my chain analysis goes, which is what we discuss in the Sunday Zoom meetings every single Sunday. There is a daily supply above with a potential liquidity trap. Let me just draw it. I'm having a hard time drawing it right now. I don't know why. So this is a resistance area, and that makes me think that we definitely could see a move off that supply at 158.09 on the daily chart. So if we do pull up and start to trend up on the USDJPY, that is our target at that daily supply. I did notice a demand zone down below, but look at this. It's very tested. So definitely not an area of demand that I personally would be looking to trade. So as far as trading the USDJPY, it's really tricky right now. This is a really bad chart. There's no trend here and there's no trend there, in my opinion. Obviously, yeah, price is trending down, but for trends, I like to see blatant peaks and valleys and stuff like that, not just pretty much straight up and down. This is a very hard chart to read. There is a 4 hour supply above that's pretty much embedded inside of that daily supply. That would be our potential set and forget trade at 157.92. So that definitely could be worth it for maybe a pullback entry. And on the 1 hour chart, we actually had nice trends to the downside. Now it's clear that we are just ranging. So we are in a range right now. So we basically want to map out the low and the high. We are waiting for those to be removed, either the low or the high. Let's say you're a day trader, you trade the 5-minute chart. Well, this is what I would be. I don't day trade, but if I was trading a 5-minute chart or lower, I would either wait for this high or wait for the low to be removed to show me direction. If we remove the high, we will have an uptrend. If we remove the low, we will have a downtrend. Then you could trade with that trend. I do prefer the move to the upside. One, because the US dollar, the DXY, is in that weekly demand and that monthly demand I was talking about at the start of the video. And two, if we get a trend to the upside, longs are preferred based off of the fact that based off of the idea that we have liquidity above with a daily supply target. So I love trading with a trend when we have a very, very obvious clear target. So I do prefer the long trades if we do break that high. But for now, in the end, we have to be patient. We have to wait for that trend to be formed or wait for supply zones and demand zones to be hit, which I'm not really seeing any unless we pull up to that 4-hour supply. The forecast for the GBPUSD. Look at the weekly time frame here. Beautiful, picture perfect weekly upward trend line right now that is being respected. That is a bullish sign. We also have a bullish sign as well because we have a daily upward trend as well. So longs are a little bit preferred right now, I will admit. And we caught this beautiful trade off this 4-hour zone. It did spike below, but at the end of the day, we did push up and break the trend line. I've been telling all my members wider stops are preferred in these market conditions. And one of our members, Lazar, got a beautiful trade off that 4-hour demand zone. And we targeted our 4-hour supply perfectly. I actually had this supply zone as well. And we got a nice trade off of that as well. So it's been a decent week. I'm going to get rid of these now because they're pretty much irrelevant. But nice move off of our 4-hour supply. Very unclear where we're going off of this chart. I will say now, if we do remove this high here, we will have a trend line to the upside. And that trend line will be our guide for day trading long on a 15 or a 5-minute chart. So this is definitely a high you guys want to map out on your charts. And if we do remove that supply, it's not a supply I'd be trading anymore because it's already tested. If we do remove that supply there, any demand there is going to be a very nice trading setup, in my opinion. Why? Because it's, if we get a nice demand zone, that'd be great, but also because the higher time frame trends are up as well. So that's what I'd be watching right now to either create a 4-hour trend or to create a new demand zone that removes that supply zone. On the 1-hour chart, we had a nice reaction off of our 1-hour zone. Again, called out ahead of time, not just after the fact, called out ahead of time. I'm pretty sure a couple members got involved in that setup as well. I'm not 100% sure. We do take a lot of setups within the group. There's a new demand zone formed at 1.36. I don't like this demand. I draw zones. I'm not going to get into detail here. I draw zones for my chain analysis because I want to see what removes the zones. I personally would avoid the zone. One, not the best zone anyways. It did remove a trend line, but it's a blatant reaction off of our better demand zone. So that was the better trade to be taking. So if you really want to trade at this zone, confirmation on a 5-minute chart, definitely preferred. Meaning wait for the zone to be hit and look for longs, look for 5-minute demand zone longs to be formed inside of that zone because I just don't really trust it. It's just, I don't know. I kind of have a gut feeling about this one. Sure, we could see a move off of it. I wouldn't be getting super greedy with the profit off that zone. Let's say we push down, we break both of these zones. That would be great for potential shorts. And if we have a supply zone there, that would be our supply zone short trade. So I do prefer to get in long, but I mean, if we do break both of these zones and there's a supply there, that's going to be a pretty nice zone. So that's what I'd be waiting for on the British pound. And again, I prefer day trading confirmation in there rather than just, a set and forget off of that 1-hour zone on the British pound. On to the forecast for the USDCAD. This is where I am from. This is where I live. Let me know where you guys are from and where you are currently living in the comments down below. Maybe you guys can connect with each other if you're from a specific country. We are into weekly demand. I think we are seeing a reaction off the zone because we barely tested the zone. I mean, we did test it 1, 2, 3, 4 times, but just barely, right? We barely got below even 25% of the way. And just a little bit of a lesson here. Sometimes when we do get another reaction off of a zone, I personally don't trade at tested zones, but if we do, we usually just break below the low of the previous test and then push up, and that's exactly what we've seen here. Nice weekly downward trend line, so that is a bearish sign, but I won't deny the strength of that weekly supply above at 1.39 with a liquidity trap before, so I think it's possible we do retrace back up to that supply and get a move to the downside. Or at minimum, start to pull up and contact that downward trend line on the weekly chart. I think that's where we could be headed here. On the daily time frame, nice move off of our daily zone here, kind of a liquidity trap as well. Kind of a zone I avoided though, if I'm being honest. 2 tests off of this zone. If you look at it in a channel here, let's take a look. You guys can see we're below that 50% mark still. So I think we have a little bit of room to push up and then maybe fall again. So I think we will see some bullishness here on the USDCAD this week. And I mean, we did get just that. We had this 1 hour zone, and unfortunately I drew this zone as it was being tested, if I remember correctly. And sometimes that can mess with your psychology, guys. So if you guys need help with your psychology, missing trades like this when it takes off in your direction, it happens, it sucks, check out my Stoic Trading Psychology podcast. Anywhere you get your podcasts, I also have a YouTube channel for it as well. It'll definitely help you out with missed trades like this, just to keep you guys realistic and kind of living in reality. So check out the podcast. You guys will definitely enjoy it. As far as the 1 hour chart goes now, we did just barely remove this 1 hour trend line. And so what I would be watching now for this trend line is to see if that high can be removed. If the high is removed, we will have a trend line here, and that trend line will act as a guide for 5-minute time frame day trading longs. So that's what I'd be waiting for on the USDCAD. If we continue to push up as well, let's say you're not a day trader, you're just going to wait for 1 hour zones. I'm not seeing anything here, unfortunately. But if we do push up and break this supply, it's a proven supply zone. Another trade we called out before it took place, just by the way. This supply zone was proven because we did get a reaction off of it. So if we do get a demand zone formed that remove that supply, any demand there is going to be a very powerful setup, especially because we know there is supply here because we got a beautiful reaction off of that supply zone. So that's what I'd be waiting for, to see if we can remove that high and remove some zones for potential longs. And if you're bearish, we're basically waiting for a 1 hour trend line to day trade short, or waiting for this, again, proven demand zone to be removed and hopefully leaving us with a supply zone for a potential short trade here on the USDCAD. On to the forecast for the Aussie US dollar. We are reacting off of a daily supply. It was already tested once, got in for a deeper test here, and this is a very old supply zone. So I mean, it's actually a very good supply zone. The move away is fantastic. The better daily supply is actually sitting above, but we'll talk about that another time. We can't deny the strength of this daily trend, but if we throw a channel tool on it, which really shows us how overextended we are, I mean, look at how overextended we are. We are pretty much closing above this trend line, which makes this trend line pretty much irrelevant. Sorry, I meant closing above the channel here. So we are very overextended, in my opinion. It didn't stop us from getting some nice trades, though. As far as trading it goes now, we want to be watching this 4 hour trend. So draw this trend line on your charts, guys. It's very important. If you look at this trend line, we're actually sitting at a decent point within the overall trend and channel to continue to look for longs. We are sitting below the 50% mark. So if you are a day trader, 15-minute time frame longs are good as long as this trend line is holding and we are sitting below the 50% mark, which we are right now, which means however you trade, supply and demand, support and resistance, flag patterns, whatever, if you trade the 15-minute time frame even lower, you want to be looking for longs, in my opinion. As far as trading it goes now, we pretty much are only going to be focused on the 1 hour chart. You can see this 1 hour zone here. We didn't quite get the pullback to the zone. Didn't stop one of our good members, Alex, from taking a nice trade from that zone. Picture perfect setup. Unfortunately, like when I saw this move happen, I stayed away from the zone. I personally didn't get involved in this trade because we just missed the entry. But sometimes with supply and demand, if you do have a wider stop and entry, you'll get trades like this even without price hitting the zone. So I wasn't surprised to see the zone removed after we came so close to hitting that zone. And I ended up drawing this supply zone. Nice move off the supply so far. It is being respected. I am not super confident in this area. I think if we do push up, we will be breaking it because the better supply is clearly sitting above at 0.71, and this supply is responsible for breaking a pretty significant upper trend line. I like the basing. I love the move away. It is absolutely fantastic. So if we do push up to the supply, I think we could definitely see a move to the downside. It is counter trend to the weekly and to the daily chart, so we have to take that into consideration. But another thing we have to take into consideration is the fact that we are very overextended. So to see a big move is definitely possible. So again, if you're bearish, this is our supply zone for a short trade. If you want to be aggressive with trade management, I understand because it is counter trend. If you want to look for a massive trade, target the low. I also understand that because of how overextended we really are. If you are bullish, I'll make it very simple. We are waiting for these supply zones to be removed and for demand zones to be formed because this trade has already taken place and I'm not really seeing any other setups. So if you're bullish, we are waiting for these supply zones to be taken out to look for longs. And then let's say we remove this supply here. We have a demand zone here. You just want to pretty much target this supply. and then maybe look to wrap up the trade or bump your stop to break even or bump your stop loss up with price, because I think we are definitely going to see a move off of the supply at 0.71. On to the forecast for the USD Swiss. I'm going to start with the daily, then I'm going to go to the weekly. And usually I go top down or completely bottom up, but the reason I want to do that is because we have a very good daily supply at 0.788. I think we could see a small move off the zone, but eventually I think we will be breaking it. And the reason is this, because just sitting above is a weekly supply zone at 0.79, which I think we could see a move off of as well if we do pull up. Obviously, we are not really seeing any evidence of that taking place just yet. This is a very tricky chart to be trading right now. On the 4-hour chart, there's really no trend. There's really nothing going on. We had this 4-hour zone. We did get a small move off of it, but not really anything great. There is a set and forget trade. This 4-hour supply is within that daily supply. So if we do, in fact, pull up to that supply zone, I think we could see a maybe 1-to-1, maybe a 2-to-1 move off of that zone at 0.789. So I know it's pretty far away, but I'm just pointing it out because it is possible we do retrace back up to that zone this week. So that will be our 4-hour supply zone set and forget trade. As far as trading it goes now, look at the 1-hour chart. We had a nice 1-hour trend. That trend was removed by our supply. Got a couple reactions off the supply. I'm not calling that removed for reasons I'm not going to get into, but just really sideways here. So at this point, if you're looking at the 1-hour chart, we need to wait for this supply to be removed. Any demand there, that's going to be our potential long setup on the USD Swiss. So basically just waiting for this supply to be removed. I wouldn't be shorting right now. I'm not really seeing any zones except for that 4-hour supply just pointed out. If we remove that supply, any demand there is going to be a pretty nice trading setup. And if you are bearish, we want to be mapping out this low. So make sure you guys map out that low on your charts, follow along. And then we will have some sort of trend line here. It's going to be a tricky one to draw. We'll have a trend at least to the downside, and that will be evidence to suggest we could be shorting. You might be asking, well, why not just short right now? Because I'm not going to predict that. I'm going to let the charts show me where the trend is, just like we did here. And then sometimes that trend does break and you get stopped out. That's a reality, guys. Nobody is turning $50 into 50 grand. Nobody has a 90% win rate. You know, I'm sick of all these gurus claiming that stuff. You guys will lose trades. And for anybody who's ever taken a trade before, they know you're going to lose lots of trades, right? So at this point, we need to be patient, wait for a trend to show, or wait for supply zones to be removed, and for demand zones to show us to get in long. We need to be patient here. On to the forecast for crude oil. And if you guys are on Instagram, give me a follow at FX Telepath. Send me a message, say, hey, what's up, Kev? I appreciate the forecast. I'm pretty friendly over there. I will respond to every message I get as long as I see it. On the weekly chart on oil here, we did get a nice move off of this support. I thought we were going to go lower. You guys can go back and check it. I always tell you guys, go back and check. I called out that trade. Well, I thought we would pull back down the zone and pull up, and I was wrong. So I'm just trying to be very transparent here. I still think we are going to go down to the zone. Let me be very clear. I think we are going to pull back down to that zone, target the stop losses here at 53.85. We have a great weekly zone. It's pretty old. It's created many years ago. But I think it's a good weekly zone. I think we are, especially since we have support here, I think we're going to react off of that zone, in my opinion. There is evidence to suggest lately that we will be pulling back, and let me show you guys that now. On the daily chart, we did clearly remove this trend to the downside, but what do you notice? I don't really call this a trend. Obviously, what I call this is momentum. There's blatant momentum to the upside on oil. Momentum is different than this. A good trend with a very nice trend line. Those are two different things. This is unsustainable in my opinion, where a trend with a trend line is more sustainable. Not 100%, like I said, nothing is 100%, but it's more sustainable. So because we don't have that, I'm actually kind of bearish on oil right now. We have two options. Well, actually just one option. We have a 1-hour supply here. I would ignore it. If you're going to short at this 1-hour supply at 63.65, I'd be very aggressive with trade management. The reason is because there's a better 4-hour supply zone sitting above. A little drop-based drop hidden zone at 64.05. So if we do pull up to that supply, I think we could see a move off that supply. I like the zone. It removed a trend line. In my opinion, it's a great zone. It's a fantastic move away. So in my opinion, trading oil is all going to revolve around this 4-hour supply. I wouldn't be day trading short. I wouldn't be day trading long right now. I wouldn't be getting in long. I would simply be waiting for this supply to be hit. You could be looking for short trades off of that supply. If you want to day trade in there, that's fine, completely reasonable. Look for confirmation trades, I get it. And if you're bullish, it's also going to revolve around this 4-hour zone because we want to see what removes it if it does get removed. Any demand zone that removes that, it's going to be a very powerful zone in my opinion, because this is kind of the key zone right now that removed the trend line. A trend line is very significant. So the fact that we removed it with this supply means I think we definitely could see a move to the downside off that 4-hour supply. So if right now in crude oil, all going to revolve around that 4-hour supply zone at 64.05. All right, last but not least, we are on to Bitcoin. I've been pointing out this weekly zone for quite a while now. Nice reaction off of it. We did break below it here, but I'm not going to call that removed. More importantly, the monthly demand's in control, and we are starting to see some bulls pick Bitcoin back up. I'm pretty bullish on Bitcoin down here. I did look at the higher time frames, like the macro chart. We are so, like, it's difficult to really be putting a lot of money into Bitcoin here right now. I mean, it's a nice pullback, but you kind of have to say Bitcoin's gonna be going over 124,000 or whatever the high was. And I don't know, I'm just not super confident in it fundamentally, I guess. But that's for another video. At the end of the day, we have a weekly and monthly demand in control. So I definitely prefer longs. And on the 4-hour chart, there's really nothing to go off of here. If we remove this high, we will have a trend line there, and that will be a bullish sign for day trading longs. Until then, it's very difficult to be predicting where price is going to go. However, on Friday here, we did have a nice downward trend line on the 1-hour charts. That downward trend line was removed by this demand at 67,683. It's not my favorite demand zone at all. The basing is big. The move away is not bad. I don't mind the move away, but the basing compared to the move away is not a great ratio. It's not the best situation, I will be honest. So I will make it very clear. I don't think this is good for a set and forget. Set and forget as in entry, stop, take profit. I think if you want to trade in the inside of the zone, I think waiting for the zone to be hit, going to a 5-minute time frame could be good. Looking for demand zones to be formed inside of that zone, that's what I'd be doing on Bitcoin right now. And if we remove that demand, any supply there is going to be a nice trading setup. But if you want to short, I understand. But just remember where we are at in the bigger picture, right? We have a weekly demand in control, monthly demand in control. I know it's kind of scary buying Bitcoin down here, but in my opinion, it's actually more scary shorting down here because we've seen such a fall off, not really the best situation. And at this point, we want to be favoring longs because of the weekly and the monthly demand in control. If you guys want access to my full-length forecast, join the Diamond membership where you will have access to that as well as my daily market forecast, the full course supply and demand PDF, and much, much more. Make sure you guys subscribe so you can catch next week's forecast as well. And I always appreciate a like. Thank you guys, and I'll see you in the next video.